Jacy Sheldon's hit on Caitlin Clark's groin didn't just sideline the WNBA's biggest star during the league's most important week. It triggered a financial meltdown that the league is desperately trying to hide. The All-Star game that should have been a celebration turned into a viewer disappointment as ratings crash and burn. Yet the WNBA is still in full-on denial. The correlation is undeniable, and the league's response reveals their true priorities aren't what you think they are. So how much did the ratings actually tank without Clark? And what did WNBA Commissioner say all about it? So what started all this? July 13th changed everything. Jacy Sheldon drove her knee directly into Caitlin Clark's groin during what should have been a routine basketball play. The contact was unmistakable. Clark immediately doubled over, clutching herself in obvious pain. The referees? They watched it happen and did absolutely nothing. No whistle, no foul call, not even a review. This wasn't basketball. This was a targeted attack that went unpunished right in front of 3 officials. New footage shows exactly how deliberate this contact was. Sheldon's knee makes direct impact with Clark's groin area. You can see Clark's immediate reaction, the grimace, the way she grabs at her body, the clear distress. This wasn't incidental contact during a normal basketball play. This was a player driving her knee into another player's most vulnerable area while refs stood by and allowed it to happen. This wasn't the first time either. All season long, Clark has absorbed elbows to the head, blindside shoves, eye pokes, and hard fouls that would get flagged immediately if they happened to any other player. The pattern is crystal clear. Other players can get away with anything when they're going after Clark, and the referees consistently look the other way. It's become open season on the league's biggest star. And last year, I noticed how much it was just Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was taking all the hits. Caitlin Clark was taking all the abuse. But this year they've added Sophie Cunningham. She gets more flagrant fouls on her than anybody in the league. Besides Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, she's been taking hits as well. But the worst thing is the consistency. So they don't call flagrant fouls, or most of the time Caitlin Clark can be held for an entire game at a time. They don't call fouls, they don't call common fouls. But then when it's Indiana Fever, guess what? Touch foul here, they call absolutely nothing. The moment news broke that Clark was injured and wouldn't play in the All-Star game, social media exploded. Fans immediately connected the dots between Sheldon's dirty play and Clark's absence. But the real shock came when you looked at what happened to ticket prices. Before Clark's injury announcement, the All-Star Game was tracking to have the highest average purchase price in WNBA All-Star Game history. Fans were paying $262 on average for tickets. The get-in price sat at $121, meaning even the cheapest seats were commanding premium prices. This was supposed to be the league's biggest payday of the season. Then everything collapsed. Within hours of the injury news, the get-in price crashed from $121 to just $64. That's a 48% drop overnight. The secondary market went into complete freefall as fans dumped their tickets at massive losses rather than attend an All-Star game without the only player they actually wanted to see. You bleep around and find out what this league looks like without Caitlin Clark being involved in your biggest events. Kathy Engelbert, this should be a perfect example of why you need to get your officiating cleaned up and you need to have a talk with your players in the league. And when nobody's asking you to hold Caitlin Clark's hand, just play fair. You know what this proves? The referees didn't just fail to protect Clark during that play with Sheldon. They cost the league hundreds of thousands of dollars in ticket revenue with their incompetence. One uncalled foul turned the WNBA's biggest celebration into a financial disaster. And this was just the beginning of how badly this injury would expose the league's complete dependence on their biggest star. You see, this is exactly what we were talking about. WNBA All-Star ratings are in for 2025 and it is down 40%. 40% from last year. That's bad. That is really bad. We already watched the ticket prices drop by more than 50% because Caitlin Clark was not playing. This is bad news for the WNBA, and this should be a wake-up call. For the first time all season, Gainbridge Fieldhouse had empty seats during a major WNBA event. The sight was jarring. Patches of vacant chairs scattered throughout sections that would normally be packed wall-to-wall with Clark jerseys and screaming fans. This wasn't just any game either. This was the All-Star Weekend, supposedly the league's biggest celebration of the year. Clark's absence triggered something the WNBA had never experienced before. A fan boycott they couldn't spin or hide. The numbers don't lie. Every single Fever home game this season and last season sold out completely. Clark's presence guaranteed sellouts wherever she played. But without her, fans simply stayed home. It's clear. Fans sent a blatant message. A shot across the bow. Alright, and your ship? Well, without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA and all their pay us what you owe us action, that action will sink. That action will sink. Think about what Clark typically brings to any arena. Standing ovations during warm-ups, lines wrapped around the building for merchandise, local restaurants and bars packed hours before tip-off, hotel rooms booked solid. That's the Clark effect. She doesn't just fill seats. She transforms entire neighborhoods into basketball celebrations. The ticket resale disaster tells the complete story. Fans who paid premium prices were desperate to get rid of their All-Star tickets the moment Clark was ruled out. StubHub and Vivid Seats flooded with listings as people took massive financial losses rather than attend a Clarkless event. We're talking about fans who willingly lost hundreds of dollars just to avoid watching the All-Star game without her. The economic ripple effects spread beyond just ticket sales. Merchandise booths reported massive drops in sales without Clark jerseys flying off the racks. Concession stands prepared for record crowds but served far fewer customers. Local Indianapolis businesses that had staffed up for the biggest weekend of the WNBA season watched their projected revenues disappear. But when it comes to the vendors in the arena, the shops in the arena, they're not going to have the same amount of people patronize their business as they would if Caitlin Clark was there. The surrounding restaurants, the surrounding areas, the surrounding attractions, they're not going to have the same number of people patronize their business as they would if Caitlin Clark was healthy. Let's be real. This exposed something the league desperately wanted to hide. WNBA events without Clark are just regular basketball games that most fans ignore. The All-Star Game featured Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, and every other supposed star in the league. None of them could generate even half the interest that Clark brings just by existing. But the most damning evidence was still coming. Those empty seats and crashed ticket prices were just the visible symptoms of a much deeper problem that would become impossible for the league to cover up. The television ratings were about to reveal exactly how many millions of fans decided they had better things to do than watch a WNBA All-Star game without Caitlin Clark. The All-Star disaster proved what everyone already knew, but the WNBA refuses to admit. Their entire future depends on one player. The 36% ratings crashed from 3.44 million viewers in 2024 to just 2.19 million in 2025 wasn't a coincidence. It was concrete proof that fans tune in for Caitlin Clark, not the WNBA brand. The league's desperate attempts to promote other stars fell completely flat without Clark present. This wasn't about basketball quality or competition level. This was about star power, and only one player has it. Talk about leading up to this. The officiating, I think enough fans had it up to here with the league as a whole. People had it up to here. You gotta understand. Caitlin Clark is getting beat up in these games. The refs aren't calling anything. Kathy Engelbert seems to have air between both of her ears. She seems to have pure air floating between her ears. And I think people are fed up. They were fed up with it. You know what makes this even more embarrassing for the league? The players' pay us what you owe us stunt backfired spectacularly. These shirts during warm-ups created massive online backlash as fans saw the message as tone-deaf entitlement. Players demanding more money while the person who actually generates their revenue sat injured on the bench looked ridiculous. The negative reaction proved fans understand exactly who drives the league's success. The viewership data tells an uncomfortable truth the WNBA can't spin away. Even regular season games featuring Clark outdrew this All-Star game. The Chicago Sky at Fever on May 17th drew 2.7 million viewers. The Liberty at Fever on May 24th pulled 2.22 million. The Fever at Liberty on June 14th brought 2.2 million. Clark's regular games generate more interest than their biggest annual celebration without her. The New York Liberty's aggressive recruitment of Clark shows what smart franchises understand, as they were caught on camera meeting Clark and her agent. The Liberty understand you build around transcendent talent, not pretend other players can fill that role. This creates an uncomfortable reality for players and league officials who seem threatened by Clark's dominance. The financial meltdown exposed their complete dependence on someone many of them resent. Veterans who've played for years without generating significant interest watch a rookie completely change the league's trajectory overnight. The WNBA's selective data presentation made things worse. They compared 2025 viewership to 2023's 850,000 viewers while ignoring the 2024 Clark numbers. This misleading comparison showed a 158% increase that meant absolutely nothing to fans who remembered last year's record-breaking performance. The league now faces a simple choice: protect their biggest asset or watch everything crumble without her. The All-Star financial disaster removed any doubt about Clark's value. She doesn't just drive viewership and ticket sales, she is the viewership and ticket sales. The WNBA's survival depends entirely on keeping Caitlin Clark healthy, happy, and on the court. I mean, seriously, it was awful. That's the other black eye coming out of this whole thing, is the complete lack of competitiveness that this game had. Seriously. I mean, wow. And see, that was the thing. They went out there and virtue signaled for those payers shirts, and seriously, now they're getting dragged over it. Cathy Engelbert's response to the refereeing crisis showed exactly where her priorities lie, and it wasn't with protecting the league's biggest star. While fans demanded accountability for the officials who allowed dangerous plays against Clark to go uncalled, Engelbert offered weak statements that completely missed the point. Her dismissive tone suggested the real problem wasn't referee incompetence but fan expectations that were somehow too high. The commissioner's handling of the officiating controversy revealed a fundamental disconnect with the fan base. Instead of addressing the pattern of missed calls that put Clark at risk, Engelbert focused on defending the refs and downplaying legitimate safety concerns. This wasn't leadership. This was damage control that made the damage worse. Let's be real about what fans witnessed all season long. Clark took an elbow to the head from Kennedy Carter that wasn't called. Dejanay Carrington poked her in the eye during playoff action with no consequences. Angel Reese whacked her in the head and even celebrated flagrant fouls against Clark. The Sheldon knee-to-groin incident was just the latest example of refs allowing other players to cross lines they'd never let slide against anyone else. Engelbert's failure to demand referee accountability fueled massive fan anger and distrust. Every time she deflected responsibility or made excuses for officiating failures, she lost more credibility with the people who actually watch WNBA games. Fans weren't asking for special treatment. They wanted basic player safety standards applied equally. The league's promotional strategy during All-Star Week made things even worse. This backwards approach exposed the league's complete misunderstanding of their own product. You can't ignore your biggest draw getting targeted by dangerous plays, then act surprised when fans reject the alternative entertainment you're offering. The message came through loud and clear. Fix the officiating or lose the audience. Engelbert's mishandling turned what should have been the WNBA's biggest celebration into a complete PR disaster. The empty seats, crashed ticket prices, and plummeting ratings created a narrative of league decline that overshadowed everything positive about All-Star Weekend. Instead of showcasing the league's growth, the weekend became proof that the WNBA's success hinges entirely on one player they failed to protect. The financial meltdown forced an uncomfortable truth into the spotlight. The WNBA's future success depends on keeping Caitlin Clark healthy and on the court, yet their own referees seem determined to let other players take cheap shots at her. This financial meltdown proves the WNBA's survival depends entirely on protecting Caitlin Clark. The 36% ratings crash and 48% ticket price collapse aren't just statistics. They're proof that the league has one irreplaceable asset. You need to demand better from Cathy Engelbert and these corrupt referees who allow dangerous plays against Clark to go unpunished. Support Clark's return to full health because the Fever's championship window is wide open with her leading the way. The league needs real change in officiating and leadership, or watch their golden goose get injured again while they make excuses.